If you're administrating your own email servers and systems, chances are pretty high that you had at least one time a problem with it. Either your emails got rejected when you were sending stuff to somebody, or the worst, you were affected by spam campaigns and phishing. This is actually a big problem we have in email communication in general, because not only can a compromised email account lead to serious security issues, no, sometimes spam is also sent to others on your behalf using your real name and your real domain, even without any account of you being compromised at all. I've seen this problem a couple of times in the past in some companies, and this of course can seriously damage a company's reputation. That's why many server admins usually define strict policies on their email systems. You might have heard about SPF, DKIM and DMARC before, and since the last years there's also something new called BIMI. If you haven't, no worries, I'm explaining it all in this video, and because I know it's not easy to manage all those things on your email servers and systems, I want to show you the perfect solution that I'm, by the way, using myself on my own email systems for that, EasyDMARC. EasyDMARC is a cloud-native service provider for outbound email security, and it helps you to stop ransomware, business email compromise, phishing, and some other nasty attacks. It's perfect for mid-sized to large enterprises to level up your email security and reputation, but because they also have a couple of interesting tools and features they provide entirely for free, it is also perfect for us home lab people who just want to run their own email servers and configs. So let's check it out together. If you want to get started and level up your email security, just go to the homepage easydmarc.com and create an account entirely for free. And if you want to use that for your company and business to secure outbound email communication, just reach out to the EasyDMARC team. They have a dedicated customer support and they will walk you through all the necessary steps on how to configure and set this up on your email systems. Of course, we will cover some of their features and products here in this video as well, but I also want to explain some of the technologies behind it and why you actually should use them on your systems. If you have created your account and logged into the dashboard of EasyDMARC, it will show you a great overview of all the domains you have added to their managed system and whether you have correct DNS records in place such as DMARC, DKIM, SPF and BIMI. And it will also show you some graphs and statistics about the volume of outbound emails and whether they are compliant with your security policies, if there are threats or unknown emails. And it will sort them by top sending sources. So for example, if you're using Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, maybe some other tools for sending outbound email campaigns and so on, they will all show up here. And you can very easily identify whether everything is working and if you have all the DNS records and policies correctly set up. So let's take one step back and talk in a bit more detail about SPF, DKIM, DMARC and BIMI. Why do we actually need them? Because technically, all those records, they don't really protect you from incoming spam. As I mentioned, they are all developed for outbound email security. But you have to look at this from both sides. Yeah? You want to make sure to protect others against spam campaigns that might happen in your name, of course. And by implementing these technologies on your mail server systems, the other email servers that receive emails from you can look up if the email that is arriving at their systems is truly sent by you or if it was an attacker on your behalf. It's great for protecting your partners and companies you have business communication with, but I think it is also important for yourself because other email systems might check what is your reputation and if you are a trustworthy sender. So this could be especially problematic when you want to send newsletters to some of your clients and this for some reason doesn't work. And if you don't do anything to secure your outbound email communication, others might just reject your emails in some cases because they don't trust you as a sender. And honestly, as an IT pro, it just makes you look bad if you don't have these things in place for securing your emails. If you want to use EasyDMARC to manage your outbound email security, you first of all have to add your domain to it. So just click on Add Domains and this will give you a list of all the domains that you are currently managing in this system. As you can see, I have one email domain that I'm actively using for my email communication and another one that I've just added for testing. If I want to add another email domain, I click on Add Domain. And for example, we can type in the digitalive.com, which is another old domain that we can use for a test. And if I click on Add, this will tell me exactly what type of records I need to add to my DNS provider so that it can be managed by EasyDMARC. It's very easy to add this to your DNS. For example, I will show you that on Cloudflare. So here I am in my Cloudflare DNS settings. I go to DNS records and add another record that is a CNAME. for the host underscore DMARC. And then I just need to copy this value here, put it in the target, also make sure that it's not a proxied DNS record, and click on Save. So now we can go back to EasyDMARC and verify it. It shouldn't take long. It might take a few minutes to be propagated, but as you can see at Cloudflare, this is very, very fast, and it has been successfully verified. So now that we have added this domain to EasyDMARC, we should see it in the table here. And this is where we can now verify the status of all the outbound security settings. As you can see, DMARC is automatically verified because of that record. And now we could also set up SPF, DKIM, and BIMI. And let's take a closer look. We'll start with SPF, which stands for Sender Policy Framework. And this technology helps you to prevent email fraud and spoofing. It works just like most of the other outbound email security technologies by setting a record on your DNS that others can check to verify if any inbound email sent on your behalf is truly sent by your server. The way it works is, if you are sending an email to somebody, your email server usually uses its public IP address to establish a secured connection to the receiving mail server, and this address you have to put in an SPF record on your domain. So the other email server that is receiving your email can easily check if the source IP address that the email was sent from matches with the real IP address on the DNS. If somebody tries to spoof that and sends a malicious email on your behalf, its outgoing public IP address will most likely not match with yours on the SPF record, and the other email server can now just reject it as spam. To generate such an SPF record, you can easily just use the SPF generator in the tools section of EasyDMARC. So here you can just enter your domain so that you're using to send emails, and then you can add the address of your email server, such as the public IPv4 address, IPv6 address, an A record, an MX record. So those are all the valid settings that you can use. For example, here I could just easily type in the public IP address of my server. Select the failure policy, so for example, not compliant will be rejected, not compliant will be accepted, but marked as non-compliant, and neutral, so this is what you probably should not do. So I would mostly just start with a soft fail, so that your email on the receiving mail server won't be always rejected, but it should be marked as well. There's something suspicious going on because the SPF record has failed. And then you can just click on generate, and as you can see, it automatically found out that the IPv4 address that I was using is invalid, so of course 273 is exceeding the IPv4 range. But I mostly use this as an example to not accidentally use valid IPv4 addresses for demonstrations that I don't own myself. So as I can see, the generator of EasyDMARC will always check if you have any errors in your SPF record. But let's just assume this would be a valid IPv4 address. Then you could just easily copy this and put it as a TXT record on your DNS system. So this works great for any self-hosted email servers that use public IPv4 addresses. But if you're using a different managed system like Office 365 or maybe Gmail Workspace, they most likely don't give you an IPv4 address, or their outgoing IPv4 addresses might always change from time to time, and of course you don't want to always upgrade your DNS records. So in this case, they most likely give you an include statement you should add in the SPF record. So for example, this is the official documentation from Gmail. So there they will give you an include statement for _SPF google.com. So this you can just copy and put on your SPF record. And if you're using Microsoft 365, then you should add this SPF record. So for example, if I would want to generate a record for the digitallife.com, for example, and I'm using Gmail, I could just use this include statement here, add it in here, and add another one if I'm also using Office 365, for example, so I'm also grabbing this include statement, put it in here, and generate an SPF record. So as you can see, this is valid, and EasyDMARC also shows you automatically all the IP addresses that are affiliated with this managed SPF record from Google. You can see I'm using this here, and this is the include statement for Office 365. So this is the SPF record that I could just easily copy and paste on my DNS system. However, there are a few challenges that come with managing it this way. So the first is, there is a limitation of having maximum of 10 include statements in one SPF record. So if you're using different outbound email systems, so maybe you're using Google Workspace, you're using Office 365, and some other tools for sending outbound email newsletter campaigns and so on, if you have more than 10 include statements, it will likely have some result in some problems. And also, if you're changing those tools and you want to add more include statements, you always need to regenerate this record and add it manually on your DNS system in Cloudflare. There's a much better solution in EasyDMARC for managing this, and this is called EasySPF. If you want to use the managed EasySPF solution in EasyDMARC, you first of all need to activate this for your domain by adding another DNS record on your system. So just select the domain you want to activate this, click on Activate, and this again will tell you all the DNS record settings that you need to add to your provider. So here, let's do another example. I'm just copying the host name here and go to Cloudflare, add another DNS record, this time from type txt. Add in the name here, so this should always match your domain name. And then copy this value here and put it as a content. So instead of adding all those different include statements manually, you just add this one record, and EasyDMARC will automatically manage all the DNS settings and include statements for you in a table. So once we save this and added the DNS record, we need to click on verify, and this might take a while for the DNS records to be propagated. It can also take up to several hours, so I will just show you this for another example domain that I've already activated. For example, this is my currently active email domain that I'm using, and as you can see, it will show you all the include statements that you previously had on your SPF record, so it will always import all the include statements and show them as a table here. And here you will find all the different sources, like for Microsoft 365, Gmail Workspaces, all outbound email campaign tools, whatever you're using. And you can easily just activate, deactivate them. You can also add another source. For example, if I want to use Google Workspace here, I can just type in Google Workspace. You can see they already have a template added for this, so you even don't need to look this up yourself. You can easily just add this as a new source. And what EasySPF will do now is they manage all this entirely for you, so you don't even need to touch your DNS records again. You can always add new data sources, change them, and even if they exceed the limit of 10 include sources, don't worry about this. If I now save this record and go to Tools, SPF, and if you check the SPF record of your domain again, you should see in the SPF lookup tree an SPF record that contains all the public IPv4 and 6 addresses of both of the services, Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace, all managed easily in one simple record through EasySPF. That's really amazing, right? SPF is a good first line of defense against spam campaigns. However, just the sender's address being authentic, of course, doesn't say anything about the content of the email itself. Because if someone spoofs your source IP address or somehow can tamper the email in transit, SPF doesn't really protect against it. And this is where DKIM, Domain Keys Identified Mail, comes into play. It adds another layer of security by attaching a digital signature to outgoing emails. It utilizes public key cryptography, specifically using algorithms such as RSA or ECC to generate private and public keys. You might know this from TLS or SSH. The private key is used to create the digital signature, which is added to every email's header that you're sending, while the public key is stored again as a record on your DNS, so that when somebody receives an email that claims to be sent by you, the other email server can easily verify that digital signature by using the public key from your DNS record. And this is a very, very secure way to verify the email's content is truly created by you. To generate this private and public key for your DKIM record, you easily can use one of the free tools in EasyDMARC to do this. So click on Tools, DKIM Generator, and then you can generate a private and public key for DKIM for any given domain that you want. So for example, let's do this for the digitallife.com. Add your desired selector, so you need to create a separate DKIM key for multiple systems maybe, so you can differentiate between Google Workspace, Microsoft 365, and maybe your custom email server, any other outbound data sources. I'm just gonna add S1 here as a test and maybe adjust the key lengths and choose something like 2048, for example, and click on Generate. So this will generate a record that you need to put again as a TXT record on your DNS. So make sure you copy the first part here. So this is the S1, the selector _ domain key. Go to Cloudflare and add a new DNS record, again as type txt. Add this here, the selector and the _ domain key as a name. And then this value here as the content value. And save this. So now this is the public key that you have published on your DNS, and this is a private key that you can easily copy and upload on your email server, so the email server can use this private key to create a new digital signature and attach it to every email that it's sending out, and the receiving email server can check with this public key on the DNS if the digital signature is correct. Now, this works very well on any custom email server where you can import a private key. However, on some managed services like Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, this is not always possible. Because on Microsoft 365, you have to use the internal tools to generate this DKIM key. They won't give you the private key to download, only the public key. So you can easily just look this guide up and follow it, but I will just quickly walk you through, for example, because I needed to do that on my Microsoft 365 account as well. So here in the admin center, you need to go to security, then select policy and rules, thread policies, email authentication settings, select DKIM, and then when you select your domain, it will show you a window. So here you can see I've already enabled a DKIM signature on this domain in Microsoft 365. If you do that the first time, it will give you an option to generate these keys and download the public key and the TXT record you have to put on your DNS. Again, I don't know why Microsoft always hides those settings in those complicated menus, but yeah, that is how it works. And then once you've published your DKIM record and you attach the private key on your email system, you can easily just look up if the domain has a valid record. You can see, so this is correct here. And for all the domains that you've added to EasyDMARC, you should also see a valid sign here for DKIM. So this is what we've just added on the system. Now, if you want to test this, I would strongly recommend you to go to email investigation and start a test, because of course you want to check if the DKIM private key is correctly used by your email system to create this digital signature. So click on new test, and this will give you a temporary inbox that you can use to send an email to. So let's copy this and let's write a new email to this inbox. Email test 3, for example. Just put test email in here, that's totally fine, and send this. And now, after a few seconds, you should have a new email here, and you can click on the compliance to check if your DKIM key and signature was correctly attached. As you can see, everything just works. So I have passed the DMARC check with SPF and DKIM. DKIM was passed and SPF also. So this is great. If anything fails, for example, if the DKIM key wasn't imported correctly on your email system, or you have published your DNS record in the wrong way, you should see an error in here. So for example, DKIM failed, and you can easily troubleshoot what you need to correct on your system. Now, SPF and DKIM are really amazing, but there's still the question, how effective are they really? Because it's great that you have configured SPF and DKIM, but not everybody on the internet might do that. So in reality, email servers will receive so many emails from legitimate clients that might just have SPF but not DKIM set up correctly. Others are totally lazy and don't do anything. But of course, you don't want to automatically reject every email from a domain that does not have an SPF or DKIM record, because then you would probably block many legitimate emails too. So how should the receiving email server know whether it should reject an email or not when these checks are failing? This is exactly why you need DMARC, Domain-Based Message Authentication Reporting and Conformance. I don't know who came up with this name. The way it works is, again, you have to publish a record on your DNS, and this includes instructions for other email servers like, hey, this domain has SPF and DKIM in place, so every email that you receive from that domain, you have to check against SPF and DKIM. There are 3 types of policies in DMARC, such as none, so that's what you can start for testing if everything works. But then you probably should switch later to quarantine or reject, because only then other email servers will actually block emails coming from you that fail against the SPF or DKIM checks. So make sure you test this properly before, but otherwise SPF and DKIM might not be very effective when you don't have a DMARC policy correctly set up. The DMARC policy is very easy to configure in EasyDMARC, just as the name suggests, because once you added a domain to EasyDMARC, you already configured a DMARC policy. However, the default setting is always set to none, otherwise other email servers might reject your emails if you don't have the SPF and DKIM keys correctly configured. The way how you do this is very simple. Just go to Managed DMARC, then you can select your domain and it shows you the DMARC policy enforcement. And then you can easily just decide if you want to use quarantine or reject. So I would probably just select reject, which is the best to protect against spam, and then apply the changes. One thing though I have to address at this point here, so even if you have successfully completed all the setup process of SPF, DKIM and DMARC, you have done the email investigation check and you immediately want to switch the policy from none to reject or quarantine, I would strongly advise against that. Especially if you have configured multiple sending sources, then you should actually monitor incoming DMARC reports for a while until you turn on this policy. Because if anything happens to your outbound sending sources, maybe an IP address changes and therefore the SPF check fails or a DKIM key expires, of course, you need to be informed about this, otherwise you never really know if the receiving mail server blocks your email because of an SPF or DKIM check failed. So therefore, it's really important to monitor the 2 types of reports here, the aggregate reporting and the failure reporting. Both are, by the way, automatically configured when you're using the Managed DMARC service in EasyDMARC, so this is really nice. Usually those reports are XML documents that are sent to email addresses that you specify in the DMARC record, and then you need third-party tools to analyze these reports and monitor them. This is all done very easily in EasyDMARC. So here you can see the aggregate reports for my CL Creative domain, so when I'm sending mails, you can definitely see how many emails that I'm sending are compliant to SPF and DKIM checks, which ones are non-compliant, and others that are threats or unknown. So this is happening when somebody tries to send emails in your behalf, but without sending it through your servers. Also, the failure reports are very important. Other email servers might reject your emails because those checks were failing. Of course, you need to be informed about this. So definitely make sure you're watching those 2 reports, the failure report and the aggregate report, for a few days or a few weeks. And if you've got 100% compliant emails for a while, then you're good to finally turn on the DMARC policy and switch from none to reject or quarantine. And that's basically it. Congratulations, you now have protected your outbound emails with a DMARC, an SPF and DKIM record. Everything should be green and correctly set up. However, if you paid attention, there's also another technology recently added to this, which is called BIMI. So let's also quickly talk about that. BIMI stands for Brand Indicators for Message Identification, and in my opinion, this is honestly more like a nice-to-have feature. It allows organizations to display their brand logos in the email inbox of recipients who support BIMI. So you might say, well, showing a logo isn't really blocking spam. However, it can still enhance security and brand recognition as well, because an incoming email can be quickly identified as legitimate by just paying attention to a logo. And sure, we all know end users don't care about tech, but they might become suspicious when there is no logo in the email's inbox, when for all the other emails before, it was there. So it's more like a nice add-on to SPF, DKIM and DMARC, but if you're already in the game of setting everything up correctly as a good sysadmin, you can set this up too, right? And the way you do it is you just go to Managed Solution, go to Managed BIMI, and then again you need to activate this by using a DNS record, of course. So let's copy the host value and add a new CNAME record, copy the value, make sure this is not proxied, of course, and click on Save. So let's verify it. Again, it might take a few minutes. And then you can easily upload your VMC certificate or your SVG logo file for BIMI. So let me just demonstrate this to you on a domain that I've already verified and where you can send emails from. As you can see, this is now active, and here is my logo file that I've already uploaded. So one thing that is very important to mention, the BIMI logo has to follow some specific format. So it has to be an SVG logo with vector graphics. You can't just upload any image, unfortunately. And when you go to the homepage of the BIMI group, there they have published all the specifications that this logo has to be compliant with. But if you follow them, if you upload it correctly, you should see in some email clients that support the BIMI logo, any email that comes from your domain should have this logo. For example, let me just send an email to my Gmail account, BIMI test mail. So here is the email, and as you can see, this will show a logo here. So every email that comes from my domain will get this logo displayed in Gmail. Unfortunately, BIMI is not widely adopted, so as you can see, there are some providers that already support BIMI. I don't know why they need to show this up here, that Microsoft is the only one who does not support it. I don't know. But yeah, as you can see, adoption isn't always very fast. We will see when it gets adopted by Microsoft. Okay, so I hope this helped you to understand all these outbound email security technologies a bit better. And if you're interested in learning more about IT, make sure to check out my channel, give this one a like and subscribe. That would be really cool. And a big thanks goes out to EasyDMARC for supporting this video. If you're interested in their systems and services, again, just head over to their homepage. You will find the link in the description of the video. Just reach out to them if you want to use that in your company. And thanks everybody for watching. I will catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.